Every school has its unseen heroes, and at Westridge High, that hero was Mr. Johnson, the janitor. While everyone knew him by his title, few recognized the soul beneath the uniform. Each day before dawn broke, Mr. Johnson would be there, pushing his cart along the silent halls, his figure a solitary shadow against the flickering fluorescent lights. He cleaned up after forgotten messes and maintained order, ensuring the school was tip and top before the first bell echoed through the corridors. Mr. Johnson's work was as routine as it was invisible. He wiped down windows until they sparkled, scuffs off the linoleum floors, and collected crumpled papers that didn't quite make it to the trash cans. His contributions were crucial yet overlooked, his presence taken for granted, like the very walls of the classrooms he cleaned. Students rushed by him, lost in their conversations. None stopped to wonder about the man behind the mop. For them, Mr. Johnson was just part of the school's furniture, someone whose life story was as uninteresting as his daily tasks seemed to be. Emma, a diligent senior known for her compassion, was different. One day, burdened with the stress of upcoming finals, she took a break in the quiet part of the school near the auditorium. It was there she first saw Mr. Johnson in a different light. Seated on an old folding chair, he was absorbed in a textbook, an advanced calculus book that looked like it belonged to a university library rather than in the hands of a janitor. "Mr. Johnson, what are you reading?" she asked, unable to mask her curiosity. "Oh, just brushing up on some old skills," he replied casually, his attention still partly on the equations before him. His understated response and the heavy textbook intrigued Emma, but respecting his privacy, she didn't press further. Instead, she started observing him, noticing how he often assisted students with more than just physical tasks. He was a quiet problem solver, from fixing lockers to offering quiet advice to those who lingered around him. Weeks later, during an exceptionally tough calculus exam, Emma struggled with a problem she recognized from the book Mr. Johnson had been reading. On a whim, she visited him after the test. "Mr. Johnson, do you know anything about calculus? I saw you with a textbook once." Smiling, Mr. Johnson invited her to sit, and together they worked through the problem. As he explained the concepts with surprising clarity and depth, Emma's respect for him deepened. "How do you know so much about this?" she finally asked. Mr. Johnson paused, his eyes reflecting a mix of resilience and sorrow. "Behind all of this, I was a man who had once lectured in university auditoriums, where I was not Mr. Janitor, but Professor Johnson, a mathematician, revered for his insights. But circumstances changed dramatically when my son, Thomas, was diagnosed with a rare illness. His voice changed with a father's concern. I needed a job that offered stability and flexibility to care for him. This position as a janitor provided just that. So can I be present in my son's life when he needs me the most?" Emma, standing in the dim light of the janitor's closet, felt a tear roll down her cheek as she grasped the depth of Mr. Johnson's sacrifice. Moved by his dedication, Emma realized how much she and her peers had underestimated him. She spread the word about Mr. Johnson's academic background and his devotion as a father. This revelation changed how the fellow students saw Mr. Johnson. They no longer saw just a janitor, but a devoted father and a brilliant mind who had made a noble sacrifice. Inspired by his story, they rallied the school community to support him further, organizing fundraisers to help with Thomas's medical expenses and spreading awareness about his condition. Mr. Johnson, the school janitor who was once a mathematics professor, said, "Don't judge someone just by their job. Everyone has their own skills and stories that you might not see at first. I chose to be here, and I chose to make a difference quietly." His story taught them to look beyond the surface, appreciating the hidden depths and talents of those around them.